Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here on the Monday again with all of you. And I know today also is a rally for Trump, but yeah, I assume you all will stick around here. Anyway, today we have obviously, as usual, I have a guest on Monday, and the purpose of that is that we get to know the person behind the channel or the Twitter account, and so that's what we're going to talk about. Also, today I'm Orange Girl Bad. And so I figured, and it's also our national color in Holland. So I guess that's a good thing. Um, what else is there? I've got a Patreon now, so you all know. And because I had to give up my PayPal because EU is not easy on us. Anyway, what else is there to say? Nothing. Let's just dive in. I hope you all can hear us well. So we have my homegirl, Kate, and Kate is obviously my friend, and everybody knows her from her channel and Twitter. And so, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Really
Yeah,
good. I love the orange on you. And the gold bra, you are just all Trump right now, which is making me very
yeah.
happy.
I'm just Trump's girl today,
Yep.
and so I want to go into something that we actually haven't done. I mean, I haven't heard you speak about much. Maybe you do that on your own channel as well. But obviously, we want to know, who is Kate?
Oh, geez. Well, Kate is very different now than I was a couple of years ago, ever since my awakening. You guys wouldn't even recognize me, honestly. I was I just was very different. I was living a very asleep life and caught in the matrix, I would say, and not paying attention to anything except for, pop culture and things like that. And miserable, I would say. I'm
Mm,
very, like, a million times happier now.
yeah, we all
Yeah.
are.
Yes. Yeah. It's
So
amazing.
when did you wake up?
It was February 2018.
Oh,
So
wow.
I found out about Q just a few months. It was like, I think February 2nd or something like that. So
Yeah.
very early in February 2018. And it was like almost instantaneous for me. Within one weekend, I went down a couple rabbit holes and just emerged on the other side and became this unrecognizable person. But it was really hard because I had to sever from that old life, really. I couldn't
Right.
really even talk to any of my friends about what I was going through or anything like that.
So did you go on the boards, or did you immediately go on Twitter?
No, actually, it took me a while to get to the boards. I was on, there was a Reddit, a subreddit called The Great
Yes.
Awakening. Yeah. So that's where I was spending most of the time. And everything would kind of migrate from the boards to the subreddit. And I had no idea how to
True.
use the boards yet. So it was a couple months before I got on the boards. And I was also on Twitter. Twitter was actually how I found the subreddit. So the first thing I did after I found Q was put in QAnon into the hashtag or into the search in Twitter, and I
Yeah.
started following, I don't know, like 12 to 20 accounts. And
That's so funny how we all, because I came from the boards, then I went to the subreddit, and that's when I went to Twitter. And
yeah,
so, and everybody has their own little round that they made. So it's funny to see that. And when Reddit went down, we started on Telegram with that same group, and it's still existing. So I was an admin over there. And yeah, that's quite interesting. But it's still not the same because with Reddit, you had like proper, you had all these different subjects. It was really nice, actually.
I
But
really
yeah,
loved the setup of Reddit and how when something was important, it would get bumped to the top. I mean, even on
yes,
Twitter, you're going through a lot of crud just to get to the important stuff. But I actually, in my old life, was pretty active on Twitter and Instagram. I used to just like tweet just stupid things. And so I was already active on Twitter before I found all of this stuff. So it was just
but
the natural progression.
you grow really rapidly with your research and everything that you did, and that, yeah, how did that came to be, or when did you start your channel?
I started my channel last year, so I just passed my 1 year anniversary a couple months ago. I think it was either March or May of 2019, and I started my Twitter at the same time. So it was my Twitter was very steadily growing,
Yeah,
but as soon as the lockdown happened, that was when my account
right.
started to soar, because suddenly you had all of these people that were home and they
True.
had time to research. And it was actually really exciting for a lot of us that had been doing this for a while, watching all of the accounts get bigger and bigger and watching the shift happen between the mainstream media accounts and our accounts. And suddenly the engagement was like dropping on these and raising on ours.
So true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I came later on Twitter, so that's actually when I thought to myself, well, this is a nice battlefield here, because I was done with the boards, and it's so intense, you know. So and I like to be more to actually interact properly. While on the boards you do interact, but only through research. So who is Kate before all that? What did you do? Where did you come from? What is your background?
Well, I grew up in Southern California, and that was where I was living up until a couple of years ago. So I mean, I've kind of been in Arizona. I went to high school in Arizona also, but my life was very different. So I grew up in Calabasas, and which is like where the Kardashians live and whatever. But it was very
Oh,
different when I lived there. It was like an old West town when I grew up there, and now it's exploded into something different. But I was in the industry from the time I was 2.5. I did my first commercial,
yeah,
and I was constantly working, but I never got famous. I never like hit that big thing, but I did tons of commercials and little parts here and there on TV shows and movies and things like that. It was actually, looking back on it, very fortunate that I only got so far. And part of that could have been also that my mother was very protective of
oh, that's
me.
good.
So yeah, my older brother and my older sister did it first. That's how I got into it, because they got into it through their friends. And so all three of us did it growing up. And my mom was just like, we would never be left in a room alone with an adult. And if we were on
Good.
set, my mom was always right there next to us. You have teachers on set and they're responsible for you, but mostly my mom would always be there too. And
Yeah.
so that was but I never knew, I never saw anything nefarious. It wasn't
Mm.
until learning about this stuff later on, looking back on that, I can see now how that
Yeah.
works. But luckily, it never touched me.
For
Um,
me, it was much later. Well, I started when I was like 18, no, 19, and then I got into it. So I had no parents or whatever that, because I lived in Italy myself, you know.
yeah,
However, same as you, I never got that far. And also, I did choose to, because, you know, obviously, I was already an adult. And so I did see things that I didn't like at all. And so I got out. But yeah, if you're that young, it's even more dangerous, and it's very likely that you actually get into that. So you were really, really lucky with that, with having your parents or your mother, you know, protect you in that way. So
yeah.
um, when so how long were you in that movement for?
So I got my and when I was 14, my family actually suddenly moved to Arizona
Mm.
because of the earthquake that happened. So we
Oh,
moved, and the industry was not, now the industry is a little bit bigger out here, but it really is no comparison to Hollywood. So I was gonna try to get into acting here, but every agency was acting slash modeling, which I
yeah,
wasn't a model. I did some print work, but I wasn't a model.
yeah.
So I went to an audition for one of these agencies, and it was a panel of one woman and three men. And my mom wasn't in the room for that audition. And they asked me to drop my pants so they could see my legs. And I was like, okay. And I did it, I think, because I was a moron. And I left and I told my mom, and she was like, that's it. We're not going back.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was it for me. I didn't do anything in the industry after that.
I had also commercials that well, that was a bit stupid because I was so blunt. I mean, so naive.
No, you?
No, at the time I wasn't that blunt yet. I mean, naive. And so I had this commercial that I went to, and then, but it was for this, where you have to go in the shower, Nivea, whatever crap.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not doing nude. I'm not doing nude. But at the end of the day, that was also normal commercials you had at the time, right? And
Mhm.
I declined it. And on hindsight, I did. Actually regret it, because the girl that actually took it, which was an American model, and she took it and she got a boatload of money with that. So yeah,
Shoot.
the wrong bet. But at
It
the end of the
happened
day,
for a reason.
it did, and it and it's not like people think you get really rich with it. No, that's only when you're at the top. You know,
Hmm.
and it's not like you can live off it at all.
Tippy
And
top.
yeah,
Yeah.
so then you got out of that, and then how did your life proceed? What did you
Oh,
do?
man, I tried college for a little while. I ended up dropping out of college. Well, I was at Arizona State University. I dropped out of ASU because I couldn't find a parking spot one
What?
day. And yeah, I was just like over it. Really, the only reason I went to college in the first place was because all my friends were going. I was such a lemming and I didn't have any aspirations. There was no part of me. I was just like, I don't know. So I was in college, but I wasn't really paying attention. I think my second semester, I was in ballet, golf, and karate. So
Really?
yeah, so I wasn't really taking
Golf?
it seriously. Yeah. Then I decided that I wanted to go into the music industry. I wanted to be a music producer, and I got accepted to the Phoenix Conservatory of Music, I think it's called. But at the last minute, I pulled out. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
started going to community college then, and decided I wanted to go into psychology. My mom was a hypnotherapist and I always wanted to be a hypnotherapist. So
Cool.
but you don't need a psychology degree. I don't really know what I was doing. But again, I was in college. Then I actually had a stalker. A guy who was a convicted sex offender was breaking into my apartment at night, and I was essentially living alone. So I lived with my friend Jenny, but she was in California a lot, and so he would break into my apartment. I would come home, and all of my lamps would be unplugged. Like he would get behind my couch. He had to like pull my couch out and pull my lamps out of the socket. It was very bizarre. Like this whole thing was very bizarre. Went on for a couple months. Like he would try to get into my apartment sometimes. He chased me on foot one time. He chased me in my car one time. And at the time, I had an opportunity to go my friend Jenny and I had started a business where we were going to be event planners and we were going to do weddings and stuff. We
Yes.
had the opportunity, excuse me, to go to California and basically work at this place that was like one of the most prestigious places in Southern California that did weddings, and apprentice under somebody. So the parole officer, or the probation officer of this guy that was stalking me, because this guy had been in prison, he and I became good friends, and he was trying to convince me to move. He was like, I hate to tell you to live your life by this guy, but he's getting worse. And the psychologist also that was working with this guy was saying that, they're seeing his behavior is starting to get worse.
Yeah.
And anyway, I made the decision to move to California. That man, I used to check up on him every once in a while, and he ended up raping and killing somebody and going back to jail.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
That is,
So,
I mean, seriously, that could have been you. Well, it
yeah.
wasn't, because it was not your time, but
Right.
wow. I need to thank Adam Pug, Hugabug, for his donation. Love the orange on you. Thank you. Reminds me of my school colors. Such brainy beauties. Love the show. Thank you so much. Also got a PayPal from Andrew. Thank you so much for that. I recommend not to send any PayPals anymore, because that's going to be blocked in 2 days. Yeah, I need to give that account up, Europe and all.
Mm.
Anyway, and so what? So how old were you at the time when all this
I
happened?
was 20. I was 20 or
Okay.
21, and I moved back to California. Excuse me. When I was going through it, I was just pissed. I wasn't afraid at the time. I was just pissed that this guy was doing this, that I had to live my life thinking about this guy, coming after me,
Right.
whatever. But once I moved to California, then I think it sunk in that like how dangerous it was. And this was before I knew. This was before he even did that to that other woman. So I started taking self-defense classes, like serious self-defense. Like I had a guy working with me that was yeah, teaching me not like pow pow, like real stuff. And
Wow.
yeah, so excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Then I moved to Santa Monica. I was bartending and waitressing for a while, hating my life so much, so miserable.
Yeah.
um
It's
oh,
that
I got it.
transition part, right? Where you come from certain things that you had your dreams and all that, and then all of a sudden you're there. I know exactly what you mean because I did the same, exactly the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
And-
I in the interim, something I forgot to mention was that I started working for Playboy.
oh,
So
yeah.
it was another reason to move out to California. There were more job opportunities to work with Playboy. So I ended up working with Playboy for like, excuse me, 9 years or something. So I was there a lot, around a lot, but nothing, thank goodness, ever happened to me. I never really saw anything with my own eyes, but I knew stories. I had a lot of
Yeah.
friends that I made obviously through those 9 years, and I heard stories about stuff.
How long were
Um,
you there? I mean, working with them?
9 years.
Oh, wow, that long.
Yeah. So,
What
mostly it
period?
was
What period was that?
2001 to 2000 to 2009
Okay.
ish. Yeah. So I started off as a cyber girl, which was like, that was the brand new thing. It was the first year they had that. It was going to be their online version of the Playmate. And to me, that was like a consolation prize. It was like everybody wanted to be a Playmate, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was like you said, some of these girls come from like, you know, somewhere other than LA. And they
Yeah.
think that if they do Playboy, it means they're going to be famous and they're going to whatever. No. Mostly there are really only two, maybe three girls that were like Pamela Anderson, Carmen
Yeah.
Electra.
Yeah.
Who else? Really nobody.
Yeah.
Jenny McCarthy,
Yeah.
that like ever did something afterwards. But it was really just it was just a company that was going to swallow you whole. And when I started working for them, they turned almost into an agency where now if you were a Playmate, now whatever you did outside of Playboy, like they would help you get jobs, but even if you got a job outside of the company, they still took a percentage as if they were your manager.
Yeah.
And so it was actually a blessing for me that I was a cyber girl because I wasn't under contract with Playboy. I could take it or
Oh,
leave it. And because I was a cyber girl, my experiences at the mansion were very different. Like I didn't have to go and sit with the, old businessmen or this particular person and like
exactly.
laugh at their jokes. I was free to do whatever I want, which mostly meant I was like downstairs in the basement, just like talking about how miserable I was with my friends.
So what did it entail to be cyber girl?
Well, so I was, it was just, it was okay. It was online pictorial. And then you also go online and chat. That was where I learned that, like, this was the year 2000. So
Yeah.
I had never really been in a chat room before. I didn't really use the internet. So this was my first experience, like communicating with people on the internet.
Like with a cam?
No, not with a cam. We were just in chat rooms. Like your pictures would drop, as far as I remember, it was so long ago now. Your pictures would drop, and then you would have a chat where they would, on a particular night, and oh, come chat with Kate or whatever. I actually met some really interesting people and made some good friends through that. But it was an interesting thing. So then, and then I was Cyber Girl of the Month, whatever month that was in
Yes.
1948, and then I would go to parties. And so, but the parties, because I wasn't under contract, I was paid to be at the parties.
Right.
So that was where I kind of made the bulk of my money through Playboy, was just going to the parties. And
Yeah.
then later on, I ended up working for Playboy Radio and Playboy TV.
Well, that's the same when you're a normal model, like I was. You get to, you have to go to events. You have to go to, well, obviously the Formula One event where you are. Then you have fairs where you, well, what's it called? Fair events where they do offshore boats and stuff like sports events, but also discotheques. We got
Mm-hmm.
just paid to be there, to be a part of. So it attracts people. So I know very well how that works, and it
Right.
is fun because you're not. Yeah, you're not like much under their control in that sense, because you're from the lower tier, so to speak. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know how that is. So 9 years is a long time to do that, but that's yeah, quite cool. And,
Right.
and so
It
when
was a
was
long
your,
time.
you also have a son, and so
Yes.
when was he born?
He's 5, so
Oh, okay.
2015. Yeah.
Oh, he's very young still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's cool.
So oh, I remember you also shared something about, what was it? Kind of a butler in the mansion.
Oh yeah. Okay. So my very first time at the mansion, I was still living in Arizona, and so they flew me out. This was actually what happened was my boyfriend at the time sent in pictures of me. I didn't even know it, and all of a sudden I get this letter in the mail, like the actual mail, that says you've been invited, you've been selected to come out and do a test shoot for Playmate, and whatever. So I went to. They flew me out, and I was staying at the mansion for a couple days, couple nights, I mean, and I was in the guest house. And when I got there, that was during the time that Hef had all the blonde girlfriends.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah,
Well, Kendra and what's her name? And
it was actually before Kendra. It was before
oh,
Kendra and what's her face. It was actually the batch. It was the batch before them, which
right.
interestingly enough included a girl I went to high school with. But anyway, um, I when I was there, they were in Cannes for the film festival, and
Right.
I was kind of bummed about that because I wanted to meet them. That was part of the excitement
Yeah.
of going to the mansion and whatever. So anyway, I get there and the email says, there's like a guy there's a guy that picks me up from the airport and then drops me off there, chauffeur. And then he's like, okay. And I get there and I had instructions of where to go. And I just basically stayed in my room. I was afraid to leave it. But in my instructions, it said, when you get hungry, just go into the main house and tell the chef, whatever you want to eat and whatever. And I stayed in there for as long as I possibly could. And then I got starving. I went into the main house and there was this young guy there who was the butler. And he said, hi, are you hungry? And I said, yeah, I am. And he said, what can we get for you? And I said, like a grilled cheese or something. He's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, no, that's great. Grilled cheese. So he got it for me. And then he was actually sitting with, the whole house was empty other than a couple staff. And he sat with me while I was eating and was talking to me. And he's like, oh, so this is obviously your first time here. And I said, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And he's like, yeah, I can tell. And I said, I'm bummed that Hef and the girls aren't here. He's like, no, you don't understand. That's a blessing. And I was totally confused. I had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, I can tell you're a nice girl. I can tell that you're very excited to be here, and that you want to, see the house and whatever. And I'll make a deal with you. I'm going to show you around the whole house, everything that you want to see. You could peek in closets. You could do whatever you want under one condition: you never ever step foot upstairs again, ever. I don't care if your best friend invites you up there. I don't care if every bathroom downstairs is taken. You don't go upstairs. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And he did. He showed me around. I tried on Hef's pajamas. I did.
How many does he have of those?
A million. I mean, he's got a
Yeah.
whole walk-in closet. It's like an entire row of just silk pajamas in every color.
Yeah.
I think the ones I tried on were like maroon. So I got to go and see the whole thing. Anyway, the interesting thing about that is, so I kept my end of the bargain. I never went upstairs. I was invited upstairs a few times,
Because
and
did
never went.
he did he give you kind of a hint as to why, or did you just
Nope.
pick up like, okay, this is something I need to listen to?
Well, it was just something I was going to listen to, and I was always just, I don't know what it was. I always had my guard up when I was in that house.
Yeah.
So that was back when I used to drink. I used to get canned with my friends,
Yeah.
but I never got drunk once at the Playboy Mansion. I was offered drugs. I was offered everything.
Yeah.
You could drink for free. Like they were literally encouraging you to drink all night. I never got drunk, not one time
Right.
at that mansion. So some kind of inner knowing in me was just like, I just don't want to lose my cool here. I don't want to lose control. and I never went upstairs. Years later, maybe a year or two into it, I started to hear the stories about what went on upstairs. But the interesting thing, I think, about that guy is that every other person that worked at the Playboy Mansion has been there since the beginning of time. Most of them are like, older people that have literally worked at the mansion since it was established in Beverly Hills, and he was the only young person I ever saw that really worked there. I also made friends with all of these people through the course of the years that I worked there, not just the girls and the models, but the staff. Nobody remembered this guy.
Wow.
Nobody. It was like he didn't exist. And
An
you would think that
angel.
somebody would remember exactly a young guy that worked there. He would have stuck out like a sore thumb. No, I never saw him since, never heard of him since. And everybody I asked was like, never heard of him.
Wow. That's so cool. I mean, seriously, I do believe that these things happen for a reason because, we have these protections around us. On this side of the pond, obviously, we get to the Cannes and the Saint-Tropez and the Monte Carlo. That's what's over here. And so that's where I went. I went to Monte Carlo, and you get introduced to ugh, like old men and all that. And and you go to all these places, but I mean, instantly I thought, oh God, because the luxury and everything that is there, the money going around, but I always felt something like, just like something is not okay here. And so, yeah, that was short lived for me. And I'm thankful for that now. And
Yeah.
yeah, because and yes, people are fascinating, when you have experiences like that. Well, model, actress, whatever we were, you know luckily this great awakening doesn't give a flying f
Right.
what we've done in our past, nor do we need to publicize it, because all I want to be seen as somebody that is here to help with the great awakening, just like you. And and to be and to use our brains, because we may be cuties, but we also have brains, right?
Right. I struggled a lot with telling this story at first because I didn't
Me too.
want people to look at me like that. When I started to talk about, when I wanted to be an anon, I wanted to be a digital
Yeah.
soldier. I didn't want to be whatever I was. And so I struggled with telling the story, but I also was afraid if I didn't tell it, that it was going to come out anyway. And then it was going to look
Right.
like I was hiding something. And you know how the Anons are, they'll find out what you ate for breakfast and who you went to prom with.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to hide it, but also the story of it. I ended up going on Edge of Wonder pretty early on. They encouraged me to tell that story because it did also when I was going through the mansion, he did show me like places that you could push on where it was like a secret compartment or a secret whatever. And that was when we were talking about the tunnels.
Right.
So anyway, there was a reason to talk about it, not just that, but that is like 12 lifetimes ago, it feels like.
Yeah, well, that's it, because for me, the same. I came obviously in the movement, like on the board, so you're completely anonymous. Nobody has no clue what you look like, and even if you're a guy or a girl. And I like that a lot, because usually you always are being judged for what you look like in the beginning. And so then later, same on Twitter, and nobody knew. And obviously with my channel, I did decide to show myself, which was a blessing in the end, because for my own background. But you want to establish yourself first before you start. I mean, for me, because I didn't want people to hook onto me because you have a past like that. And because that seems to be a thing apparently for some. And yeah, so I'm glad that we are very similar in that, right? And
well, your experience was way cooler, and like it's so interesting. Like working for Playboy is very different from being like an actual legitimate model. I would say, although those experiences are the same, like the parties, like just being there as like eye candy or whatever is similar, but we weren't like going super cool places like you were.
Well, yeah, that's it. But that's Europe, right? And in Europe,
Yeah,
you
that's
have
true.
these cool places. But at the end of the day, it's the same it's the same thing. And it's always about who you know and who you get to know. So, and I didn't do this for long at all, because it's a lot more dangerous over here in Europe, because you get immediately confronted with these things. You want to make it, then you have to do what they ask of you. And so very quickly I quit that. Plus I could never do catwalks because I'm not that tall. And so for me it was mainly television and film thingies, and commercials and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it can't even have a name, because it is not like I was famous or whatever. Well, I was in Italy for a little bit, but that was about it. And yeah, and then my life went on with all my healing stuff. So that was a complete different path. Now, after you got out of that, because what made you quit?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily even say I quit. It more just tapered. Oh, but one thing is, as soon as I started to look into all of this stuff, something came back to me that I had kind of shut out, and that was that when I a few years into Playboy, actually kind of more towards the end, the like Playmate
Wait,
that
you're
worked for
gone.
Playboy.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
am I?
yeah, I guess connection. You're
Oh,
back.
okay.
You're back.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know if I was muted. So they, the whole goal is to be a playmate or whatever. That's the
Mm.
prestigious thing. Even though the more time I spent, the less I wanted it, because I started to see it for what it was, and these girls were not happy.
No.
Anyway, I got reached. Long story short, I had a girl that at the time was I would say an A-list celebrity pop star,
Uh-huh.
contact me, and basically, like, long story short, try to pimp me out, try to have me join this like prostitution ring that involved. And she was like, well, you'll become a playmate. She basically gave me a menu of the things if I was willing to do this and this, I could get this and this, like an apartment or a car or whatever.
Yes.
um at the time, I had just started dating somebody. I had no interest in this, but I knew enough to keep her talking, to like sound interested enough to keep her talking, because I was like
Yeah.
saving the whole conversation, because I was like, this is really messed up.
Yeah.
And she wanted me. There was a DJ that was picked out for me that they wanted me to sleep with, and they had him reach out to me, and so he was talking to me, and then she was saying how lucky I was, because when she came into this, she had to sleep with two men that were over the age of 70, and so, girl, you're so lucky that he's like young and cute and blah blah blah.
What?
um yeah, anyway, so that's going to come out. I won't talk about who that was, but that will definitely come out. The
Well, it's the
connections of
same.
this.
It's the same in the modeling industry, because obviously you get to these events and there are celebrities, and then they ask you to their hotel, and like, yeah, like, they can just pick you out and you're gonna say yes. But obviously a lot of people do say yes, because they feel that the more fame they can get, the better. Well, for me, for one, I didn't care about that at all, because really I don't want to go with old creepy famous people just because they think they have the privilege to do so because they're famous. Well, and I have quite a lot of pride in that sense, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I would I mean, I had one that actually did that, and he said, well, the manager of this club asked me to come over, and I was there, and this was like a famous Formula One driver, and he was very, very popular at the time. And he looks at me and he goes like, "Well, will you come with me to my hotel?" And I'm like, "Oh, what do you think? I'm your personal prostitute? I don't think so." And his face, he was not used to that at all. I mean, but incredible. And I was like, "Well, I'd
Yeah.
rather be poor." And still look myself in the mirror than that trashy crap, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
you see it so much, and it's in every layer of those industries.
Yeah, see, I was so unaware that it was easy for me to look at it as just like an isolated incident. I didn't really realize how connected this girl was and
Yeah.
that this is why she was famous. I wasn't putting these dots together. I didn't realize that this was like a whole operation. And
Yes.
yeah, I just
This
thought
is
like,
this is how the yachting girls come to be.
well, okay, so this same girl, I don't, I'm trying to make it really like a very long story short. I get contacted from what they said was Maxim. They're looking for a Maxim, like someone to host a show for Maxim or whatever it was at FHM or Maxim that had a TV channel for like a hot minute. Anyway, at the time I was doing the TV show for Playboy TV. So it made sense to me that they would reach out to me for this. They were like, you're already picked. They already like you. You don't even have to audition. They've already seen your stuff. But
Yeah.
the producer wants to meet you. And it was his secretary that was messaging me. She's like, I'm going to be with him. He just wants to meet up with you. You can pick the time and the place. He just wants to meet you in person. So I picked a time and a place that I knew was going to be very busy. And I went and met up with this producer and his secretary, which was like a 19-year-old girl. Okay. And
Oh,
it became very clear. They kept ordering me drinks. I was literally at one point sitting in front of 3 martinis because I was like, I am not getting drunk with you. And basically they were like, you're already in, we already love you, you're going to be the host of the show, but one little catch, you need to impress the Japanese businessmen who are funding the project.
of
They're going to be
course.
on our boat this weekend, so will you come with us on our boat? And I'm like, yeah, I'll totally be there. And then if the conversation proceeds like, oh, you have to come home with us, I was like, absolutely, I'll follow you. I'm like, I'll just get my car from valet, and they were getting their car. And I was like, I'll follow you. And then I ended up turning off, and they ended up chasing me in their car for a while. And
Whoa.
I lost them. I called 911. I was like, I'm like literally being chased right now.
Oh my.
Anyway, I during the conversation, the guy lets it slip. He got my email address from the pop star girl that
Right.
was trying to prostitute me. He didn't get it from Playboy. He got it
No.
from her. So this was an extension of that. And like you
Yes.
said, the yachting girls, like that's what that was.
Well, yeah, that's I mean, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just yeah, business as usual for them, you know. But when you're young and you're in there, you don't know that until slowly you start to see all these little things that you're like, I don't trust this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad that I never got. And plus, I mean, I I always hated it that people just saw me as this cutie instead of that I also have a brain. I couldn't stand that, you know, because you want, yeah, because you want, I mean, I spoke 4 languages and I'm thinking of Melania. Melania always, yeah, she was this model when you travel and all that, you learn these languages. And so you know that you have more than just, you know, your pretty face. And soon enough, I started to hate the fact that you're just arm candy, you know, and I didn't like that at all because I knew that I was not stupid either. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, I mean, you can't get around it obviously because they still see your face, and you know they just take that as, you know, just shut up and be beautiful. Well, that doesn't work for me, does it? And it doesn't work for you either, as the way I know you.
Yeah. Well, I actually really love being underestimated.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really kind of love being underestimated. It's a little fun. Maybe that little sick part of me thinks it's fun.
Well, yeah, because you can play with it, right? And you can
Yeah.
outsmart them as well. Uh, yeah, I got that trick as well. But yeah, I just maybe I'm more in a masculine way like that. I'm just so direct, and so yeah, people usually vanish, and they cannot handle my straightness in that sense.
Yeah. Well,
So
I like that about you. So,
well, we both have our ways of handling these situations, and that's because many people say, "Oh, you guys, you're so direct, or you're so, you know, confronting." But the whole reason we are like this is because if you are constantly bombarded with people always seeing you as just the cutie, you get really annoyed, right?
mm,
And you learn to, you become much harder, and it's not like you want to be this harsh, but you have to defend yourself, you know, and
yeah.
that's the way it works.
Yeah, I was always, I mean, I was a dummy back then. I'm smarter now. I was always smart, but I did dumb stuff back there. I have no idea how I survived all of that without, I mean,
Yeah.
coming out basically unscathed. But I also have that masculine energy. I was actually laughing with my friend yesterday because I've done a lot of past life regressions, had a lot of myself. I think I only have 2 lives that I remember where I was a female. Every other lifetime I was a man.
I have one. I only have one, and I've got so many. When I did the regression as well, and everywhere I was a man, and I was like, oh, well, that explains a lot, you know. Plus, I
It
grew
does.
up it's everything is like direct, and if you have a confrontation, or you have a kind of a fight with each other, you just talk about it and it's over with, for me it works
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, so in that sense, I totally know where you come from as well. So now you have your son, and so
Yes.
how, because I remember you talking about your how you were very invested in the IVF part of
Hmm.
your life, and so you want to tell something about that?
Yeah, sure. So I started have it took me we were trying to get pregnant for 4 years,
Wow.
and during the course of the 4 years, after a couple years, because everyone's like, oh, give it a year. Nobody gets pregnant right away, so like give it a year. So I didn't even go to the doctor until I was a couple years into it, and then I started to find out that I had endometriosis. I have a heart-shaped uterus, which sounds super cute, but it's not very good for trying to get pregnant. Um, and a couple other things. And so I was like having surgeries and stuff to correct some of these things. And I ended up having to do IVF. So while I was going through infertility, because it's a very, when you're trying to have a baby and your body can't do it, it's very, it's hard to explain. You just feel like almost claustrophobic in your own body. Like my body can't do this. And so I was looking for guidance online, and I started to read other women's blogs, and they were really helping me. So when I was going through it and I started to have a diagnosis for myself, I'm like, I'm going to start to blog too. I'm going to kind of pay it back, because
Yeah.
all of these women and their stories helped me so much. Everyone's got their own unique set of complications and
Yeah.
everything. And when you find that girl that is like close to what you have going on with you, you feel like you struck gold. So it's like the more people out there talking about this, the better. And that's when I started blogging about infertility. And then when I started to do IVF, I was obviously blogging about the whole IVF process, which was a lot to go through as well.
Yeah.
So then after I finally got pregnant, I had my baby, and I had postpartum depression, like insane postpartum depression. It was
Wow.
awful. So I was blogging about that as well.
What was your experience there? Because I had a friend that had that, and she didn't want to see her daughter at all. I mean,
Yeah.
so badly. And it's a very dangerous moment when that happens, because I heard a lot of those things. Obviously, I'm not a mom because I don't have children, but these stories that I've heard about, that is like scary, really.
Hmm. And I think number one, women are having children a lot later in life. I was 30 when I had my son. Um, most women were done having kids by that age, not even 20, 30 years ago. Well, 30 years ago, I would say. So
So you're
maybe
35?
I'm 40. Wait, I was 35 when I had my son.
Oh,
I
okay.
was 35 when I had my son. So I just had reality vertigo for a second. I was like, wait, what? Where am I? I'm 40. I was 35 when I had my son. And it was okay. So I always heard those stories about women like abandoning their children and stuff like that. And I was like, what is wrong with these women? I
Yes.
didn't want to leave my child. I actually had the opposite feeling, whereas like I couldn't part with him. And to the point where, I mean, I wasn't sleeping, and I never got, even when he was sleeping, I wasn't sleeping. And so I was having offers from friends and family to come and watch him so that I could get some sleep, and I couldn't part with him. And I
Oh,
lived in a
wow.
small apartment. So they would say, just go in and get some sleep. Well, don't worry, we have the baby, he's fine.
Right.
And I would go in the bedroom and I would just sob. I would just sob and sob. And any noise I heard from him, I would come out and they'd be like, he's fine. He's a baby. He's going to make noises. I used to take wet paper towels and put pieces of wet paper towels in my ears. I would put the pillow over my head and I would just cry and cry and cry until I fell
Wow.
asleep. And then when I woke up, I would be crying again. It was just so, it was so scary. There's a reason that they use sleep deprivation as a form of torture. If you're
Yeah.
not getting sleep, you have
Yeah.
no facilities. Like you have faculties, you have no ground to stand on. So I ended up getting on antidepressants, and I was going to a therapist. I was going to like a group meeting with other women with postpartum depression. I was reaching out to friends and family. I was going for walks in the sun, which everyone was telling me to do. Everything I could do to combat this, I was doing. And eventually I was able to pull myself out of it. But it was maybe one of the worst things I've been through in my life, for sure.
I've heard that as well. And it's hard. I have Lady War Anand, thank you so much for your donation. Also, I know that you lost your Twitter account, so if the mods can put her new Twitter account in there so people know how to find her. Thank you so much. And so let me say hi to some people. Hey, Q team, haven't seen you in a while. And USMC Laters, and I see a lot of people there. Danny, Todd, hi all. Tyler, good to see you, and all my mods, obviously. So so then you what did you do in the meantime? Because obviously you have your son, and so you have to take care of him. And did you also start the channel because you were blogging about that? And so did you get within the same time period start your channel about it, maybe? Or was that
he was 3 years old when I started my channel. So the first 3 years, again, I was still living in Southern California, still hanging out with, none of my friends ever talked about any of this stuff. Nobody was red pilled. Most of my friends were liberal. And, but I kind of had two split groups of friends. I had the friends that had children.
Yeah.
And then I had the friends who weren't even really married yet, and they were still going out and partying. And I was kind of in between these worlds. And so, I was watching a lot of TV. Even before I had my son, I was always miserable when I would go out. And it wasn't because I didn't like my friends. They were good people, but I wasn't interested in anything. I wasn't interested in like partying. I wasn't interested. Whatever was going on, I was just completely disinterested.
You think that comes from that time where you did also like Playboy Mansion, all that? Because I recognize the same. And after that, anything I had to do with partying and everything, I was just done with it.
I was done with it back then too. I think the last time I enjoyed that stuff was maybe my first year in college. Maybe just my first semester in college. I was still kind of in it. And even at that point, I was like, I kind of hate this. I kind of am not happy, but I didn't know that there was anything more really, which sounds like that sounds so bad. That sounds so terrible.
Well, I don't know.
But yeah, I had no deeper knowing, like there was nothing else. And so it was a very sad time.
Well, was it? Because, I mean, didn't you do nice stuff with your life in the meantime? Because you had your son already.
Well, at that point, yeah. I mean, my son was everything. And that was enough for me. It was just that there was nothing outside of my son that kept my interest or, I forgot to mention, I was also a hypnotherapist during some of this time. That kind of overlapped some of this. So I was passionate about the hypnotherapy. So it was always kind of like I was eventually going to get back there. And actually, when I red pilled, that was my first inclination, was to think that, okay, that's what I'm going to do now. Because I always knew when my son was born, I was going to be home with him until he went to school. And then I was going to go back to work because I wanted to raise my son. I didn't want him to be with anybody else. So then I started to think about going into hypnotherapy to help people through their awakening process. But it just didn't feel like the right time. It was like there weren't enough people to wake up because not enough people were awake yet. It was like, okay, I got to do something in the meantime to help wake people up. That's like the next step, maybe.
Yeah, I recognize it. So, and oh yeah, I remember our dog asking, they want try to figure out what your tattoo is about.
Yeah, so it's the seal. It's our nation's seal, and
Oh,
I don't really even know what like wild hair jumped up my ass to make me get this. It's my first and only tattoo, and I guess I was starting to feel that kind of rebelliousness in me, where I was starting to feel like the patriot in me come out. And the more my friends were getting like liberalized and radicalized into this stuff, I started to fight back with them. And then I became one of these like monsters that was like fighting with people on Facebook. And I was like, F everybody. I hate everybody. I love my country. And these people don't get it. And everybody is just a sick, sad, whiny bitch. And I went and I got this tattoo. And uh, to just show my love for my country.
well, that's
Um,
cool. So it's
yeah,
not that
and
old.
I got it in. Let's see, it was maybe it's like at least 7 years ago. I would
Oh
say
well,
maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah,
wow. So you
yeah.
were a patriot already that
I was
early.
always a patriot just from birth because of my parents. My
Oh, you
parents
really?
always instilled that in me, but I wasn't paying attention. And when I would tune in, I would get so frustrated
Yeah,
that I would just tune back out again.
yeah. Wow. But what do your parents now think of you being in the Great Awakening?
I think they're very proud of me. I think that I know my mom watches my show, and she like tells people about my show, and she posts on her Facebook and stuff. And I think my dad has caught it a couple times, but every time I'm with my dad and we start talking about this stuff, he always tells me about how proud he is of me and stuff. Most
Yeah.
of what I talk about now is stuff that my parents talked about. Mostly my dad talked about my entire childhood. My dad has been red pilled my whole life. We just thought he was crazy.
So does he know about Q?
From me, yeah, he does. He doesn't go on the internet. He
Ah,
doesn't go
okay.
on the internet really. So yeah,
That's so cool. So what
yeah.
is your best memory of the Great Awakening?
Oh gosh. There have been so many ups and downs really, and
Yeah.
I think that really any opportunity that I get to be around other patriots, other awake
Yeah.
people is one of my best memories, because it's like, oh my God, this is what it's all about. We don't get to be in person very
Yeah.
often. We
Yeah.
have all of these friendships, all of these meaningful relationships. Like you, this you're an important person in my life. I can't reach out and touch you. Like we can't be like,
No.
hey, let's go get coffee. That's
Next
very
year.
frustrating. Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
that's
that's
really
why I have my
wonderful.
GoFundMe so people can support me and I can come over, hopefully. And and we cannot leave now because of that whole Corona second
Mm,
wave, which was expected. Also, we have elections next year, so for us it will
mm.
go on for a little longer, and so that sucks. But uh, I know, and so we as women on YouTube and getting all the things out, I love it. I love our research that we do and our different topics that we have. And you're doing now the Pink Patriot podcast with Alara. I love it, love it, love it. The last one was really hilarious. And yeah, and so now I was jokingly talking about the table of Titanas, but now these guys are actually messaging me. You do have to do it because, with Kate and Alara, and we can do like a table of Titanas with the other guys and then go together into a live dig. I think
I would
that would
love it.
be awesome. So it's in the making. So yeah, I hope that soon will come to fruition, at
I would
least,
love it.
right?
Hey, we do
So
what we want. We can do anything we want. It's our, there's nobody owning us, pulling our strings. That's the fun thing. It's like if we want to,
yes,
you know, do a show together, if we want to do 7 shows, if we, want to take a day off, like we can do it, even though
yeah.
none of us do, because especially as it's like crunch time now, it's like none of us, we're all running ourselves frantic, like not getting any sleep because we are putting everything into this.
Yeah, because the elections are coming up. So, yeah, that's going to be exciting. I thought we should do a marathon at election day, online, live together. That would be great.
Yeah, I want it. Yeah, for sure. We have to do something. We have to
Yeah,
do something that day.
That would be fun. But yeah, now that you get to know all these patriots all over the world as well, because and yeah, we cannot actually meet each other yet, but I'm sure that will come in the second term from Trump. I mean,
Yes,
seriously, I have good hopes about it. Yeah,
me too.
yeah. And so, where do you see this all going now with the elections? What's going to happen? And just to yeah,
I have um I have high hopes for what's coming, but I'm not getting a vision of what it's going to be exactly. I don't know. I mean, at one point, and I was like so sure we are going to get absolute disclosure of everything as soon as we
yeah,
get the second term, and I'm not sure if it's going to be like that anymore. It still could be. I don't really know, but I just feel I have a sense of calmness about what's to
yes,
come. I might not get to live to see every bit of what needs to be disclosed, but I hope I get to
yeah.
see a good portion. We need to see a good portion of it. It's not just my selfishness. It is that
There's a reason.
transparency is the key
Yeah,
to this never happening again. People need to understand it. Now I can
absolutely.
understand why they would maybe put the brakes on for some of us who have lived through a lot of stuff. When Q says the whole truth would put people in the hospital, some of
Yes,
us, like the younger generations, will be fine because they didn't live through it as much as the older generations.
true.
Of Imagine finding out that every person that you loved that died of cancer or of
Yeah,
AIDS or in a useless war or in a this or in a that, something that could have been cured or whatever it was. That's going to be really hard
that
for people.
is. Yeah, that's going to be really hard. I never actually looked at it that way. I thought more about whatever comes out, but also the fact that indeed people did lose a lot of people around them through disease. And so, yeah, that's going to be a hard one. And I also don't think it's really productive to have everybody, you know, go into like an anger fit once they realize what has happened. So I do think that should be spoon fed slowly, But I do think that the second term will be much calmer.
Yes.
I feel that it's more
Mm-hmm.
calmer and without all the because I don't think they will have a longer stronghold on the US anyway. But yeah, that will be different for Europe probably. But I do still have good hopes that everything will be fine.
Yeah, I have hopes for the whole world. I mean, it's going to create a domino effect with the whole
Yeah,
world. Whatever happens in the United States is going to affect the rest of the world also in a very positive way. But the
absolutely.
precision that I have seen with the Q operation is part of what gives me that sense of calmness. I
Yeah,
know that they've got it. They know more than we do,
yeah.
and they've got it all figured out. So whatever is the best course of action is what's going to happen.
Well, I discovered something this week that all the drops going backwards. So we're going slowly back to the first drops, now. And I do believe that Q is almost done soon, uh, you know, uh, before or at the elections. And but if you look at the very first drop, which is about Hillary being arrested, which was at noon something on the 30th of October. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense that that last drop would be the end as well of
Yeah.
Q. And I've been looking in these last the first drops, and I'm seeing lots of things happening right now that was in all the first drops from the first 3 4 months, and
Yeah.
it's interesting to see that, and things are becoming so much more clear, and it's nice to have that because imagine those people that have nothing to do with Q, they don't know nothing about it, they don't have all these anticipations that we have and all the excitement because finally we see stuff coming to fruition, right?
Right. I know I feel bad sometimes for people who are still sleeping or, especially the people that are just out there angry, and I feel very sorry for them. But even
Yeah.
the people that are, patriots and, but they're not watching this operation unfold. I'm like, you're missing so much
Oh
fun.
gosh. Yeah, you actually miss out because, if you're coming after the fact, then you will be so bummed that you weren't there when it happened, right?
Yeah.
I
There are
mean,
also, it's like, the it's kept me from being afraid, like the COVID stuff, for example. I would have been panicked. I know
yeah,
me. I would have been panicked this whole time. But like just during some of these times, I'm looking at the people in my life looking at me like, why aren't you freaking out? You totally would be the person that'd be freaking out right now. And I'm like, I'm cool.
Yeah, yeah, because you just
Yeah.
know, right? So, are there any people that have a question for Kate or Kate with a Q?
Yeah. Quate is what Alara calls me.
Yeah, quite. Uh, Adam says Keystone for the Dutch ambassador of the United States. That would be a good one.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. Yeah, I remember having that theory at one point. I don't know how long ago it was now, but that the clock was going to start running backwards and we were going to get to the beginning.
Yeah,
And I really do think that that's what's happening now.
yeah, I do too. I've been looking at some of these drops and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like talking about Antifa and the riots and everything that's going on now is okay. Somebody wants to know what red pilled you.
So it was the Podesta emails and all of that. So I went through a very rapid awakening with that, and it was over the course of a weekend. I looked into all of the Podesta emails and all of the trafficking stuff, the pizza fence, and
Yes.
then immediately I found Q. So it was the pizza stuff, and then directly into Q. And then once I found out about Q, it was just like the wheels came off. I was like, okay, this
Right.
is it.
Wow. Q team wants to know if you're single. Well, why? You want to propose? You already proposed to me. You can't have two wives. She's not going to answer that. That's private.
Yeah, it's like the only thing I don't talk about. I talk about everything else. There are even things I'm like, I'm not going to talk about that, and then I always end up talking about it anyway. So
Yeah. It's not relevant.
it's better to, for me, I'm like, everybody's, I'm guarded when it comes to my kid, but
Yeah.
for everything else, I feel like whatever happened in my life got me to this point. I feel like every single person I know through the Great Awakening has had such an interesting life leading up to this, and
Yes.
every bit of them, it's like you needed to go through all of that in order to be who you are today.
Yes, yes, that's what I say constantly, all the traumas, whatever we've been through, it that made us wake up in the first place, right?
Yep.
What's your opinion on who POTUS is going to pick for the Supreme Court justice?
Well, I was really liking the idea of Sidney Powell. And I could still
Yeah.
see her being the pick. It's pretty genius to pick a woman because you know that no matter who they pick, if it was a man, they're going to find somebody that said that he raped her. So at
Exactly.
least they can get rid of that off the bat with a woman, although they'll probably still try it.
Well, yeah, now they will say that she prostituted herself, so that's how it goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, much better to have a woman.
Mhm.
Let's see, there's somebody else. What do you think of Ellen? I thought she was on house arrest.
I don't know. You never know. We know we know that just because we see somebody in public doesn't necessarily mean that they're even still around.
I
And if you
think
know what I mean, you know what I mean.
I think a lot are taken out already, and they
Yeah.
just either have doubles or they use CGI or what's that called, the fake deep fakes, in
Mhm.
order to show them. Um, I also found something interesting about the banners that are on Twitter. Before they were all colors, now they are black, white, or gray, and I do think they communicate with each other that way. Actually, Ursula told me
Oh
about
yeah.
that. She pointed this out to me, and I went looking, and I thought, well, there is a lot to this. Let me see. Any other?
Someone asked if I doubted the story of 9/11. I actually,
Oh,
again, like I was fully asleep. I was one of those people that rallied behind the president at the time. I thought Bush was a hero. I thought McCain was a hero. Um, and yeah, I was asleep. I didn't really start questioning it until later on. I started to like kind of hear things about it. I was like, well, that's interesting, but I wasn't really looking into it. So I was fully asleep
yeah,
on that.
yeah. No, well, I was already sort of awake because I knew what was going on in Europe with the whole, child abuse
Mm-hmm.
thing amongst politicians. But yeah, obviously, and Princess Diana is another thing. So yeah, that's where the doubt started, and slowly it grew out.
Right.
Um, do you carry, and if so, what do you carry?
That's
Even
another
that.
thing that I won't talk about publicly. But I
Good.
will say I'm very pro 2A. And
Well,
I do know how to shoot very well.
that's all they need to know.
Exactly.
Uh, Let me see. Are there any other people?
You have no clue what 9/11 is about, but it will surprise you. I believe that. I remember, one of the most interesting rabbit holes I went down was the Las Vegas shooting and what that actually was about, and how that kind of fed into the Q operation, and how it was more about Saudi Arabia than it was about a country music festival. So that's a
Yes.
very interesting rabbit hole to go down if somebody hasn't yet.
Oh yeah, that was one of the first. Actually, also on the boards we went through that. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost my train of thought. Is POTUS already having his rally? Because I
Oh,
heard he was late. Also, we have Whitehead going live at 9, and sorry, yeah, 9. I'm just thinking two time zones here. 9 p.m. EST.
you do an amazing job, because I'm here and I still have no idea what even time zone I'm in. So the fact
Yeah.
that you're that far away and you can keep it straight is amazing to me.
Well, we have to thank Neo for our wonderful calendar, because that's how I get to see all the time differences. Otherwise, I wouldn't know it either. But now I'm used to it because I have my fixed time. So for me, 7 p.m. EST is for me 1 a.m. in the morning. And
Mm.
tomorrow, I'm going to be on Above Duality at 9 p.m. EST, which will be 3 a.m. in the morning for me. However, you guys gotta go watch it, because it's gonna be about the Buseji Mountains and the stuff that is discovered there, and where we come from, and all that sort of the inner earth as well, actually. So it's gonna be interesting. Um,
That's really cool. Yeah,
Yes,
I don't
that's
want to
going to
miss
be
that.
so. That's another thing. That was where I wanted to go, because obviously you also have experiences with, the paranormal, the well, the unconventional. Let's say it.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
so,
yeah.
what was your first experience?
My first experience, I mean, I had lots of stuff when I was a kid. I don't really know. My mom used to say, or she still says, that I was, on some level, I was psychic when I was a kid. I would say things that, like, there's no way I would know, or whatever, or remember things that happened before my birth, etc. Then that went away. I had a couple weird experiences when I was a kid. I saw kind of a shadow figure when I was a kid, and with my sister and her friend. Um, Things like that. I had an orb experience when I was about 10-ish, a blue orb that came and was like over my head. And
Really?
yeah,
Did it
that was
communicate with you? Did you?
it. It did, just in, like, not telepathically really, or at least I didn't pick up anything like that, but I got notions from it. I got like feelings from it. It had kind of a maternal uh feeling towards me. It was like, it didn't seem scary, it didn't seem ominous, but
Right.
really, I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. And I loved telling ghost stories at sleepover parties, and I loved doing seances. And I even, like, my friends and I were like trying to do witchcraft in middle school, which is so stupid. Um,
We've
so I was
all
always
been
really,
there.
yeah, I was really into that stuff. I always loved talking about the paranormal, but I didn't have a ton of experiences myself until I really my awakening, like, opened this whole new can of worms for me.
So you have these spiders that come visit you. Well, you will explain
Yeah.
about that. So when did that start?
It started about a year ago. Well, I had something that was kind of like a spider being, but this didn't seem like a spider. I would just describe it like that because it had a lot of legs. But this thing would kind of come and watch and be hovering over my head, and it was almost like taking notes on me. Hard to explain how I got that from it, because it was just this little moving thing, but it was just there to observe me. Then I started having different kinds of spider beings about a year ago start to come to me, and they would watch over me, like some the size of dogs, giant, furry, hairy ass spiders hanging above my head, and mechanical spiders, all different kinds.
It's so
And
good that you're not scared of spiders, because I am. I mean, I would freak out.
Well, I don't love them, but they're here to watch me. I think I might have gotten rid of them. I've seen other things though. I've seen a lot of stuff. I don't know if it has to do with my awakening. I don't know if it has to do with my mind is clearer now. You know, I don't drink anymore. I
Yeah.
eat better. I take better care of myself. So I don't know if it has something to do with that. I don't know if it just has something to do with maybe the part of the reason that the Great Awakening is happening is because the veil is thinning and the
Yeah.
consciousness is shifting, and we are becoming more able to see this. I don't think it's just me.
So do you
Kind
feel
of
these
everybody.
spiders are evil, or
A couple of them definitely felt not good.
right?
um like I said, the little ones that I would see in the beginning that I've seen for a long time didn't seem evil to me. They just seemed like they were there to observe and take notes and whatever they were looking for. Some of them felt pretty bad.
You think
And
they're
I've heard,
alien, or from I don't know.
so
You
yeah, so since I've talked about this publicly, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me certain things that they know about them, or, you know, have you looked into this or whatever. Mostly what I hear is that they're surveillance spiders. One of the theories that I heard was that they work for an AI god and they're here to, you know, spy on you, take notes, blah blah blah.
yeah.
Some people say they get sent by a reptilian negative energy that is like somehow attracted to you or trying to figure out what you're going on. That's the other thing too, is that I feel like if you're in here in this doing this work and putting this information out, you are going to be a target for this kind of stuff. That's why it's really important for all of us to do as much as we can to put up our protections. This is why Q talks about putting on the armor of God. And even if
Yes.
you are not somebody that follows the Bible or a Christian or a Catholic, such as me, because I'm not any of those things, but I am starting to open my eyes more to those things. You need to look at it as like not creating any karma for yourself, not doing anything that we know
Yes.
what's right and what's wrong. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're like, oh, well, this is kind of a gray area. No, you know what's right and what's wrong. And when you do those wrong things, you leave yourself open to be attacked by the negative. It's like you're giving your consent to the negative energy.
I agree. And I think also that now we are just stronger to fight it off, as in energetically, because, well, my whole journey had a long history of all that stuff, and I was not able to get rid of it until I got the help and all that. And now I feel like, well, bring it, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, seriously, I'm not even, and I do think that I do believe with the energies that are hitting the earth, that they don't have that stronghold anymore on us. They try, but you know, what will they do?
Right.
But
Well, it is getting a lot safer. I mean, a few years ago, like even 7 years ago, people that were doing what we do ended up
yeah,
dead.
yes,
So
yes, and I agree with you that the armor of God. That's exactly why Q is constantly, putting emphasis on this, because it is eventually, dark versus light, and
mhm.
that goes beyond uh, the physical, so to speak.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, you don't have to be a perfect person. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be a Catholic. You just have to be taking care of yourself, making sure you're not out there hurting other people, and doing what you can to shift the balance of service to self versus service to others. Try to do
Yes,
at least a little bit more for others than you do for yourself. And I think
absolutely.
you're good. I mean, I do think that more and more we need we're it's getting to be less that just taking care of ourselves is good enough. We do
Yeah.
need to start standing up to evil more every time we see it.
Yes.
That's also part of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I have now on the Thursday, not anymore in the evening, but for Americans in the afternoon, my stream about health, which is at, what is it again? 2 p.m. EST. Yes. And so that way I can focus better, because I think that topic is very important to cover. And so that will be now every Thursday during the day. Um, and then what is your live on the Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday nights at 7 or 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern.
Right. And then on the Wednesday, you have obviously the Pink Patriot podcast with Alara, which is awesome. I love it. And that's what I wanted to say, because I think we are about to go to Trump soon, who's starting
Mm-hmm.
his rally. And we also have, well, that would be in 45 minutes also Whitehead going on. So we'll see, because I heard that Trump was an hour late with his rally. Now, I love this talk, and I'm sure that people now get to know you better. And obviously, we know each other already, and we always have a lot of fun together. And I'm hoping to be on Pink Patriot podcast one day, and otherwise,
Yes.
we're going to have the Table of Titanias coming
Well,
up.
both. We'll do both.
Both, yes, that
Whatever.
would
We
be
do what we
awesome.
want.
We can do what we want. Yes. And we have so many people that support us, all these women in our movement. They are so awesome. I love them all. And yeah, we call them our sisters. And people are also going more on Discord now, where I opened for the women only Discord channel. So everybody is in there as well. And hey, Misunderstood, you're late. Yeah. And I see also that Chris just came in. But yeah, for whoever missed it, you can watch it back later. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and also to check out Kate Awakening's channel if you haven't yet. And I want to wish you all a great, great evening. And thank Kate for being here. I love you so
Thank
much.
you. I
And
love you.
we're going to meet each other very soon. In the next year
Yes.
is my plan.
Yes, we must.
Yes. Thank you all for being here. Let me see. Thank you. Bye all. And